This is one ERG that I think some cities may struggle because we're in the South. Last year, we walked in the parade. We did not have the participation. So I said, this year, we're going to get it. But we're going to be more strategic this year. We had a huge turnout and we won the best rolling group.
Welcome to another episode of the ERG Movement Podcast. And like always, we have someone amazing here to give us all the gems. I want to introduce you all to Lynetra. Lynetra, actually, I want you to give an introduction of yourself. Who are you and kind of what do you do within the ERG space?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me again. I am Lynetra C. I am the Diversity and Inclusion Coordinator for the entire city. So we have over 8,000 employees. Here at the COM, also known as City of Memphis. We have 10 employer resource groups that make up our demographics here at the COM. And so I manage and lead and coach all of our leaders. We also have our COM Diversity Council, which is an extra leg that give me resource and also advice as well. And that council's made up of their peers. So again, they are the extension of me. So you don't see me. The council's working behind the scenes to make sure that we are creating an equitable and a safe place for all of our employees.
Okay, I can tell you I'm super excited for this conversation for a number of reasons. One, I mentioned kind of pre-show, I've been to Memphis many a times. I have a lot of family, including my mother in Memphis. So I'm always excited just to hear about some things locally that are happening. Also with that, I've actually been contacted by a lot of like city diversity professionals and ERG professionals just to learn what they can do to kind of engage city employees. So looking forward to this conversation. For one, the one question that I like to ask everyone is, what kind of got you into this space?
Well, I've been in HR for over 7 years. I worked in compensation, organizational development, so training employees. I've always kind of had a pulse doing orientation. I was over new employee orientation for several years. So I was always in the know. But we had a job swap program. So for any organizations, you want to build your employees' capacity, which allowed for me to work in equity, diversity, and inclusion. And so while working job shadowing, I am a paralegal by trade. So I was able to work with our negotiation piece that we have. And during that piece, I learned a lot about equity and in particular diversity and inclusion. So pretty much I was mentored by my predecessor who pretty taught me everything he knew about the space and I enjoyed it. And with the combination of organization development training, it was just a perfect fit for me. So the opportunity came and I took the position. I've been in that position over 2 years now.
I love that. I love that. And shouts out to mentors who kind of loop us in. Now I'm curious, just tell us a little bit about the program that you all have at the COM.
So yes, again, we have 10 employer resource groups. We have our Asia Pacific, Military, Black Professionals Network, Women's Circle, Disability Awareness, Working Parents Network, OLA, which is our Hispanic Latinx community. We have our Spectrum, which is our LGBTQ plus community and our allies. We have our Memphis. Again, we're Memphis, so that's all folks about the men. And our last ERG is our Young Professionals Network. So here at the COM, we have programming every month. So I'm very busy. Our ERGs are planning programming that focus on either community service, networking, education, all these factors that our ERGs are in charge of having program that aligns with their targeted area. And then we also have our council as well that might have some target areas that they want to focus on. So again, every month, one of these ERGs is doing something to promote the ERGs and to really engage, connect our entire population.
Got you. Okay. And I'm excited to dive into some of the engaging things that you all do. Even to rewind a little bit when it comes to the selection of ERGs, how did you all kind of go about that? And I just want to clarify, you said a men ERG, like Memphis?
It's men, MEN, and in Memphis. So yeah.
Got you. Okay, yeah. I see. I'm really curious then. How did you all kind of pick the different ERGs that you all have?
So currently, once I took the position, we currently had 8 that was already running. Then my predecessor really started to build the momentum of it, and it was based on our demographics. So once a month from IT, they send me demographics, and we would go through and look at the demographics of our population, and we wanted to make sure that all of our employees were represented. So that's where we had most of our ERGs from. The 2 under my leadership, we've added our ninth ERG, which is our Black Professionals Network, because our city is a large minority African-American population. So that was our ninth ERG. And our 10th ERG that we just added is our Memphis, because of course we have our women's circle, and the women were just having such a great time, and the men were attending their events, and they got a little jealous. So I told them, hey, put your proposal together, tell me, what target areas. And so the men got the job done. So our 10th ERG is the Memphis ERG.
I love the name too. It's so clever, the Memphis ERG. I love it when ERG names are kind of like specific to where they're at. I'm
Mhm.
obsessed with that. Okay, got you. And I guess when it comes to, let's start off with just engaging programming. How do you all kind of one align your programming with what the company wants, kind of overall what the city expects from the ERG program?
So we have a new mayor, Mayor Paul A. Young. He's young and progressive, and one of his targets is thriving arts and culture. So we're super excited that he is a component for engagement and really getting our population involved in what's going on internally so we can meet the needs externally. So that also helps for us. We have executive sponsors for all of our ERGs. And so we've kind of aligned our division leaders, our C-suite directors to the various ERGs so they can have buy-in as well. So we're always inviting them to our meetings. We're inviting them to programming. We want them to be involved and connected with what's going on. And I think once they're connected, that also kind of filters down into their divisions, into the population. So that's how we're able to get the engagement throughout government, because it can be a very complex piece, because we have professional workers such as myself that, can go out for lunch or go to a meeting. Well, we have our COM heroes that I call, which are in the field workers, but I like to call them our COM heroes because they can necessarily just, go out for lunch and go to a meeting or go to a workshop. So we have to also be cognizant of how we can intertwine all of our workers and make everyone feel included in work. So that's a piece that our ERGs is always working on, and always on my vision board, to making sure that everyone can come to the table to get the information that's needed.
Got you. Okay, so two questions on that. One, I love the name COM Heroes. As someone who kind of comes from the frontline side, I like that name much better than just like front
Mhm.
worker, all those
Right.
things.
Yeah.
Now, right now, are they kind of eligible to participate in the program, or is
Yeah.
it separate? Okay, got you.
Yeah. So all employees, all they have to do is fill out the sheet. They can sign up for one ERG or multiple, but all of our employees are eligible to be a part of our ERGs.
Got you. Okay, I'm just gonna jump to it because I know the listeners want to know what have been some things that you all have done that kind of got that group of people involved as well in your programming.
Absolutely. So, our Black Professionals Network, we also call them BPN. We have a Black History Knowledge Bowl. And so I'm all a big about partnerships, because we cannot do this work alone. And so we have a youth services division. And so we incorporated the youth into the event. And so this year we had old school versus the new school. And so our population is very competitive. And so we invited all of our city employees to come out. We had teams. We met at our Benjamin Hooks Library, a central location. And so it was really, really cool. We gave them like a study guide so they can kind of study. And it was just really amazing to see how excited our youth were about it, as well as our employee base. And so that's just one example of how we kind of engage. We try to think outside the box to accomplish. So our Black History Month knowledge bowls are a huge success. We just celebrated our Asia Pacific month in the month of May. And so we had a huge event. Again, I use our partners, which is parks. We use one of our community centers. We open it up internally and external because we also want our public, which is a part of our ERGs, is community service and community involvement. So we open it up internal, external. We had over 600 plus that were in attendance on May 18th. When I mean it was a show, it was amazing. We had performance from 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock when the event ended. We had food from 9 different countries. I learned how to say my name in 9 different languages, from China, from Philippines to Malaysia. They were doing calligraphy. I mean, literally, it was something to do for all ages, and a way really just to show the age specific and Pacific Islander heritage. So those are just two examples. I have tons of them, but two examples where we are very strategic and try to make sure that all of our populations is represented and we bring knowledge and awareness.
Okay, so much to dive in here. I'm like taking notes as you speak, just to see which parts to touch on first. Because there were so many there. I love actually both so much of what you're saying. I knew I would love, and that's why you're on the podcast. So to start with the event from the Black Professionals Network. So that one, old school versus new school, using the youth services department. So I'm guessing like the old school was the employees, and then new school was, the youth with the department. Now with that, I guess my question would be, and this is something that's actually been a question of mine. So I'm asking this kind of selfishly, but even I'll give an illustration. Like my husband technically is a city worker. He's a firefighter. So still underneath like the city of Detroit. Now with that, it's really been plaguing me on like how to get him to want, or even not just him, but like the firefighter group to want to participate in something like this. And this sounds like an event that's definitely more interesting. So I think that it has that element that a lot of ERG programming doesn't have in general of like, would I even want to participate in it? And also it seemed thoughtful with you all having a study guide where a lot of ERG events do seem kind of thrown together. So planning does seem to be an element, but what other elements do you all consider and like how to make it so that employees, especially those who are like the desk list, the city heroes, to want to participate?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm big about data and hearing from the people. So when I was in organization development, I would actually go out to various divisions and train. They would give me so much information, so many different topics they wanted to hear from. So that same model still works for ERGs. So our diversity council is tasked with our roadshow. So we're going to go out to engineering. We're going to go out to solid waste. We're going to go out to public works or police and fire. And we meet them where they are. So they have a set time where they maybe come in for lunch. If it's just 30 minutes, hey, let's go out there, bring our material. If we have any upcoming events. And that also means that we have to be flexible. So I know we're professional workers, but we might get up at 6 a.m. before, the crew goes out to, fill those potholes or etc. So we also are charged with getting outside of our comfort zone to make sure that we're meeting the needs of all of our employees.
And people attend the road shows and that they actually are like interested.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're starting them back up. We've been trying to revamp it, trying to make sure we can meet all the needs. Because again, we are a very large organization with over 8,000. So
Mm.
our council, and I'm always strategically thinking, how can we meet the needs of all of our employees? So yes, definitely road shows, and getting that information out through we have HR business partners that also work within each division. So they are also an additional eyes, ears, and hands to really get their word out to the population.
Speaking of getting the word out, so let's just say you have an upcoming event. What does it look like to get the word out?
So of course we use emails. Majority of our divisions have monitors. So for those that are COM heroes, they normally come in for lunch or before. They can view any upcoming program on the monitors. They also have our HR business partners that are communicating. We send out information to their managers, supervisors, and then word of mouth is the biggest thing. But we're always challenged. So that is a challenge. And I think a lot of organizations are challenged with their COM heroes, or their heroes in their respective cities. How can we continue to get that information out? Because sometimes that information gets stagnant, or they just hold the information, doesn't share it to everyone. So I have definitely been looking into text clubs because everyone has their cell phone, right? So send out a text message, you get it instantly. Most folks have it all the time. So definitely being very strategic to make sure that everyone has access and they're able to get the information out.
Yes, completely aligned with that. And I think that you said something big in that like word of mouth is big, which like from what I see in the ERG space, a lot of ERGs, because they don't invest that much like time and thought into their events. And I mean, I get it. It's a volunteer role. So sometimes you just kind of do what you have to do. But when you do have thoughtful programming, it actually makes it so that people will want to spread the word and invite other people. So yeah, I can definitely see that through what you all are doing. The other event that you mentioned, tell me again the name of your Asian and Pacific Islander network.
It's the Asia Pacific ERG.
Okay, got you. So with the Asian Pacific ERG, this big event that they had in collaboration with the Parks Department, with that also sounds kind of pricey and spicy, as I like to say. So I'm curious how the ERGs are kind of, because I mean, budget isn't amazing in a lot of places. And I know especially when it comes to like city programs, even more modest. So kind of how do your ERGs get creative when it comes to budget usage for these types of programming?
Absolutely. So I create executive sponsorship letters and I send them out every year. And I am hustling for all of my ERGs. And so again, we are in government, so we don't have just money just be thrown at us. But I'm very intentional in telling the leaders why we need their funding, why we need their support. So I have been very fortunate to be able to get executive sponsorship. And again, it's not a lot. If I take 3,000-4,000, hey, per ERG, I'll take it. Or 2,000 at this point, I'll take whatever I can get. So normally we get those funds. And again, I'm all about partnership. So we can work with our parks division throughout the city and not have to incur a cost for a venue. Let's use it, right? If I can incorporate the youth so I'm using all of our divisions. So I have divisions that donate maybe water or beverages or etc. So we're using all of our resources in government to make sure that we can have impactful program and also take advantage of nonprofit rates. There might be some organizations throughout the city that do want to partner with the City of Memphis. So hey, I'm always asking, you have a nonprofit rate? Can we partner? Can you pay for the food? I can, bring the people. So I have to be very strategic because I know we do have 10 ERGs. Everyone has great ideas. Every month there is something going on. I want to make sure everyone has their time to shine. But also you have to kind of wrangle in your ERGs to make sure, hey, let's make sure we give equal time, equal space, and make sure we're using our resources to the best of our abilities. So definitely if you do not have a budget, because we do not have a budget, a line item for diversity and inclusion. And if you have to start up, executive sponsorships are the best way to write your letters up, ask how much. We start off very small because we didn't know how it was going to go. And now that they have seen the fruits, seen how employees are engaged, they want to volunteer, they want to be a part, you can, increase that number.
That makes so much sense. Just so many learnings here that I think a lot of people can take away, especially when it comes to using, like leveraging the departments within your organization. I think that that's not done that frequently, and I'll say also like well for a lot of companies. And my question to you would be, because I think the pushback some people would say is like, well, we did that in the past and those departments are kind of sick of us. Like they don't want to help us out or X, Y, and Z. What will kind of be your approach on how to get buy-in from those other departments to help contribute?
And it has happened. I've asked for something, they'll say no, and I go, okay, thank you. I just go to the next person. Like no one stops my sparkle. I just keep smiling. I just say thank you with a smile, and I find that one director or with that one manager just say yes. And then once we're getting it going, they see what's going on. They're like, wow, okay, I didn't really see your vision. But then they normally jump on. So the reality is any leaders, if you are, starting ERGs or you're in this space, there are going to be tons of people that's going to tell you no. Just smile, keep it going. All I need is one yes.
Mhm.
One yes, and I'm going to prove to you why, D&I, this work that we do is impactful for our internal. And then again, we're doing the work, we're taking care of our employees. It's going to gravitate externally so we can make sure we're providing exceptional service to those employees and customers as well. So again, you just keep working your plan. And listen, I have huge ideas, so sometimes my team has to rein me in because I want to save the world. So sometimes I do, go over the top. But again, taking a risk sometimes is needed to really show people, what you're doing. Because again, you don't want to be stagnant. You're trying to always, keep current with the trends and make sure you have a program that's effective. So again, don't give up. Just keep going because again, everyone is not going to believe in the vision. And then when you don't, whatever you give me, I promise I'm gonna make lemonade out the lemons, the lemon seed, the core, whatever you give me, I'm gonna make it work.
Mm-hmm. That's the way. And you mentioned something that I was actually going to ask you when you said sometimes your team has to kind of rein you in. I'm curious, leading the ERG program, how you rein in the ERG leaders, because I know it's easy for them to kind of have these big ideas that are like, whoa, either we don't have the budget or realistically, maybe even as an organization, we're not there yet to do that type of programming. So yeah, curious how you rein them in.
Yes, I mean they want to have matching polo with the matching hats. I mean they want to let's get to the Renaissance. Let's rent out the Renaissance and have a DJ and a band. I go whoa whoa whoa. I love it all, but we work for government. Okay, so they laugh and joke. Okay, I like the idea, but how can we scale it down? Can we get the youth at Stacks to maybe perform? And so I don't ever like to shut anybody's dream down or crush it, but I have to wrangle them in. Let's think realistic. We can still do it, but how can we do it on our terms? What can we do to still have everything you want, but maybe just tweak it down? We can have charcuterie boards instead of having a huge buffet. We can be very strategic. You just have to have brain power, and that's where I have the council to really kind of help our ERGs filter, because there's so many ERGs and everyone's asking questions. So our COM council does an exceptional job in taking their ideas. And again, it's made up of professional and our COM heroes and saying, have you thought about XYZ? Or I know somebody who can do this for blah, blah, blah. And that's when we can start brainstorming, kind of bring those ideas to life.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And I know, so 10 ERGs, you talked about two of them in particular so far with the Black Professionals Network and the Asian Pacific Islander ERG. I actually want to hear about the other 8 too, in particular, even if you could think of one thing for each of them that you think is worth kind of spotlighting. And doesn't matter which order, but I do want the last one to be the Memphis one, because I know that's the one everyone's excited to like learn more about. I want to save that one for last.
Okay, perfect. So our military ERG. So we did Armed Forces Day. Our executive sponsor is Chief CJ Davis, who's the chief of police. And so again, our large population is police and fire. That's a part of that military community. And so we had a huge celebration in our Hall of Mayors. We had police personnel there. We had all the flags. We had food. And it was just a day for the ERG to really connect, come together, and just to celebrate all those that have served. So that's something that we have done with our militaries. And then we shifted towards a community outreach initiative because our COM employees love outreach. And so we did a veterans drive, and we gave to Alpha Omega Veteran Center here in Memphis. So they needed like paper towels and coffee and paper plates. And so our military ERG is one of our smaller ERGs, but they're growing. So we didn't really know how it was going to go, but the city employees met and exceeded the goal. So we had hundreds of cups and items. And we even had some donations because people wanted to contribute financially to them. So we had a huge day where we went out there and donated all of the items to the Veteran Center. And they were so appreciative. They showed us, we toured actually the new facility they just built in Memphis. So those were some program that our military ERG has done. Our Women's Circle, again, they're one of our largest ERGs. 2023, we had the Phenomenal Woman Awards. And so we opened it up to all city employees, and we wanted the division to nominate their phenomenal woman. And so we had so many selections. Again, the Women's Circle ERG, they chose who the winners were, and we had 5 recipients from various divisions. And at that year, our former mayor had an all-female senior leadership team. And so that was a huge moment in time. So also the Women's ERG decided to honor those women because it had never been done in city government. And so that was history making. So we also honored them. And so again, it was a award ceremony with all the linen and flowers and awards that we ordered. So it was a very nice an elegant event that we had in Hall of Mayors. This year, we did our Women's History Wednesdays because our employees said, hey, we can't, always get away. Can we do something, through electronics? So we did Women's History Wednesday. So every Wednesday, there were history questions about a various, woman, phenomenal woman. And so our employees would, send us their responses. And then every time they would respond, hey, have you signed up for our ERGs? Right? These are what's upcoming. So that was another draw for us to engage our population. And that went over very well. And our council, on the news, they needed some help with feminine hygiene items for our school system here in Memphis. And so our diversity council took the charge. And so we had a feminine hygiene drive charge. And the whole month of March, employees were donating. And I really love this because our men were just as excited or more excited than the women. I mean, they donated money to us because they didn't want to buy any items, so they didn't know what to buy. But the men were just as engaged. And so we went to our school system in Memphis, donated hundreds of items. I think they were overwhelmed of all the truckloads and, wagons that we had. But again, that's just an initiative that we saw a need in our community, and we want to be impactful and aligned with our core values of Women's Circle. So those are some programs from Women's Circle. Our Working Parents Network, we have signature events. And so their signature event each year is Bring Your Child to Work Day. So we are currently working on Bring Your Child to Work Day. It's always in the month of July. And so again, every year it's gone from 40 to 80. We are anticipating over 100 kids in July. So we are super excited. These kids come every year. So each year we have to be strategic to top what we did last year. So working parents, their student event, they're working very hard for that for next month. Our Spectrum, which is our LGBTQ plus, we just walked in our Mid-South Pride Parade, which was on Saturday. This is one ERG that I think some cities may struggle because we are in the South, and it's always a topic where people kind of hesitant, what is it? So last year we walked in the parade, we did not have the participation. So I said, this year we're going to get it, but we're going to be more strategic this year. We're going to incorporate our divisions. And so that's exactly what we did. So we had a call with all of our divisions for those that wanted to. It was open to everyone, but those who chose to participate, we all had different color shirts that represent the community. We had a horse. We had every police, fire truck, ambulance, like everything you could think of. Police and fire showed out. Animal shelter was there, general services, of course, HR and fire were our executive sponsors. So again, we had a huge turnout. And again, we opened it up to any of your family and friends that wanted to walk, an ally or a member of the community that wanted to walk with our 2 banners. And we won the best rolling group. So I am super excited about that we came home with an award because again, a year ago, we couldn't even get people to walk. And again, it's always about the communication. Again, it was a former administration, leadership-wise. So we have a new mayor, as I stated. So to get the traction, to get the attention, and employees were so excited, that really, really made me happy. So big kudos to our Spectrum ERG. Our young professionals and Women's Circle are our 2 largest ERGs. Our YPs, as we call them, are very creative. They love doing things, but their main focus is on professional development because they want to grow in their careers. So I know for YP, we have had several panels and leaderships from our senior leaders about how to navigate their career, just succession planning, really some tips and cues that they can have as they're elevating themselves. So our YP is definitely always trying to do something on the educational piece to build their awareness. So they are preparing for some upcoming events as it's summertime. So they like to be out and doing things. So they're getting ready to start up their program in the summer. We have our disability awareness ERG. Again, we know our disabilities can be hidden or they could be visible. And so our employees express some topics of areas. So our disabilities, we partner with our EAP, Employee Assistance Program concern. And so we have brought training such as high blood pressure, because we know a lot of employees wanted more information about it. Mental health awareness was at the top of the list this year. So we had several trainings. And then we also were able to really get our employees that information because some people wasn't even aware of concern or they may be new employees. So we also kind of gave pamphlets out. We kind of filtered the information. And we did this via Teams, and we wanted to create a safe place. Most of the time we record calls, but for those calls in particular, we want to make sure that our employees feel safe and any questions they had, whatever stayed on that call, we was going to leave it there. And so we wanted to create this, space where employees can really be open, but also get the needs, get the help and the needs met. So those are some things. Also, we have a disability awareness. October is Employment Month awareness with disability. So we are partnering with our school system, as October is our signature month. And so we are working with them. We're meeting once schools start back up so we can partner to make sure that we're providing all of our employees with disabilities hidden or visible employment opportunities, right? So that's something that we also have done in the past, and we're looking forward to bringing it back in 2024. And then our OLA, which is our Latinx. We have National Hispanic Heritage Month in the month of September. So last year we had a huge celebration. We partnered with Latino Memphis. We had food, we had dances, we had speeches, spoken word, everything. We had the mayor dancing out there. We was salsaing. It was just amazing. It was full of color. And so every year, we also have movies outside by the bridge. There's a movie night. So OLI is also in preparation for September. So I know they're going to have some very cool events to celebrate their signature month of September. And our last ERG is our newest ERG, which is the Memphis. So we had our kickoff 2 months ago, really just getting the men together because they had so many questions. And so we introduced the new leaders of it. And so actually, next month, they are preparing for their Wellness Expo. So they're going to have some men speakers to speak about men's health and wellness, because I know a lot of times men don't talk about wellness. They just work through the pain, whether it's mental or physical. And so the men definitely the ERG leaders definitely wanted to tap into some of those topics. And they're also going to have some upcoming events during the summer where they kind of can meet at a central location to kind of talk or brainstorm or whatever they need to release. So we are strategically working to make sure we provide those avenues as well. So as you can see, it's a lot that's going on, a lot of organization, a lot of planning, but we making work, and employees are really growing and thriving.
So many things. I know I just had you go on a rant, but wow, so much from that. And for those of you who are leading city ERG programs, you can thank me later, okay? Because look, I know that y'all been asking questions around what are some things we can do. A ton of things were just mentioned, and still, I have a couple of questions. I know we're coming. Well,
Yeah.
we still have some time, but I have some questions about some of them that came up. One of them. So with the let's see, Women's ERG for the Women's History Wednesdays, you said that
Mhm.
was kind of sent out to employees. How and where was that sent out?
So we sent through our communication team. And so we would send them the questions and they would just send it out. And then it would go out to all the managers, all the employees, and they would get it. And then I have a diversity and inclusion inbox. And so instead of me being, getting all these emails, it would just go straight to my DNI inbox, in which we would see who, signed up or who answered the question, whether they were right or wrong. And then we were able to communicate back to them with
Hmm.
information as well.
That is so clever. It's almost like fishing, like you're reeling them in. So you send them out an email, ask them a fun question. They reply back to the diversity inbox. And then you're like, hey, by the way, there's an ERG that talks more about this. That's what you're saying?
Yes, and I forget, we did have prizes. So we gave out gift cards. So, employees love when you're giving out some $25 gift cards.
Mm-hmm.
So that was also another grab, and then I would, list who the winner was, their division, then I would give like a quick bio of this phenomenal woman because I also wanted to educate them as well.
Yep. Yep. I love that.
And it
That
was
is
free. So that was free. ERG Leadrs, it cost you nothing but a $25 gift card. Literally. That's it.
literally like fishing. Where you're just kind of dangling this gift card, but really when it comes to driving engagement or even just helping people to find out about the ERG, great way to bring awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that so very interesting. I think two other things that I really picked up on. One, a lot of the things that you all do, I can tell is in partnership with your other departments, such as let's see which one was mentioned. Oh, with the OLA ERG. And that I don't know, what would you all call like an event like the one that you mentioned, like a festival, or I don't, I don't know what that would be called.
We just celebrated National Family Heritage Month. And so we had something internally in City Hall, and then we had something external. So again, it is definitely working with internal and external partners. So there are partners within your cities that focus on Hispanic heritage or age specific. We reach out to those organizations. Hey, we want to do something. Do you have any program? Can we tag along? Can we bring some food? So again, leveraging all your partners, because again, we also want to be true and authentic to all of our ERGs, and I never want to misrepresent. So that's why our leaders also reflect the demographics of each of our ERGs, because they are also experts in those fields. So again, leveraging those other organizations to help as well.
That makes so much sense. And I'm guessing for those larger events that you all as a diversity team kind of help to champion some of those things or some of the outreach, or maybe it's all the ERG leaders.
Yes, so all of our ERG leaders are tasked with supporting each other, because I want to make sure we bring in all of our um those that are involved in all of our ERGs to participate and learn about all ERGs. So it's just because you're over age specific doesn't mean you just focus on Asian Pacific, right? I always tell them we work. I speak French quite often. We do the work. So you want support for Age Pacific Month? Guess what? Young professionals might need help, or Bring Your Child to Work Day is coming up. They're going to need a lot of support. So they are all charged along with the diversity council to make sure that we're intertwining, working together, partnering, but also supporting and bringing your networks also to their events.
Yep, I love it. Okay, this is so interesting. So I know people will be so upset if I did not ask one more question about the Memphis ERG, which
Okay.
actually, despite what a lot of people might think, I actually am not opposed to that ERG. And even the programming that you said really helps to explain why I'm not opposed to it. But my question, which I'm really just bubbling up a question I get a lot, is how, what, I don't even know what the question would be. When it comes to like a ERG, what's kind of the qualifications in your opinion when it comes to kind of what qualifies as an ERG?
So our ERGs definitely they bring their proposal to me, the name of the ERG, what's their purpose, what their core values, and what's the intent of the ERG. Because I never want an ERG just to be a social club where you just get together, you just talking. We need to be impactful. And so education, community service, volunteerism network, those are components that I'm looking for. So how we're going to educate, the men. What kind of service can we do? Like, what are you looking for the men to do? Volunteerism, again, we are the volunteer state, so we love to volunteer. So how can the men get out in the community or help inside the city of Memphis? What can we do? And what network opportunities for those men, maybe they're young, want to build their capacity? What can we do? So I've charged all of our ERG leaders to make sure you have a mission, a purpose, your values, and then I want to make sure you stay consistent and stay focused on your core values. Now, all of our ERGs are open to anyone. So again, if you're a woman, you want to join a man, hey, that is perfectly fine. Anyone can join any ERGs, but in particular for establishing the ERG, you want to make sure you know what you're doing, because anybody may ask, so what does age specific stand for? And you can say, hey, blah, 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 this is our mission. Our targeted area is the month of May. This is our 6th month. This is what we do. So at least people will know what you are doing and where their money is going as well.
And I will say, under the three pillars that you just mentioned, and I think it was three, right? Educate, community service, networking, right? It would make sense to have a men's ERG because all of those things, there's niche things under each of those umbrellas. And really, especially with me saying more recently, like ERGs are like an extension of the employee engagement team, the learning and development team, and for some companies, if they have like a CSR community give back, also the ERGs can be an extension of that, which is the exact pillars that you just outlined. So employee engagement, this would be through that networking pillar. So really pushing that one. And with education, that's under the learning and development. How do we have some very specific niche opportunities for learning and education that is specific to men in particular? And then community service, also same exact concept, which for me, it seems kind of like a no-brainer in terms of why it would be reasonable to have that. However, I will mention, I like how you all did it, where you all started with the more underrepresented communities and you didn't, I like that part was like a first and foremost focus, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, thinking out loud, but I think that helps for people who think about or who maybe have heard about um or their employees might want to have one of these ERGs. I've heard a lot of people say that they shut it down immediately. And for me, I'm like, well, it's community building and you're missing out on a big group of people who also kind of can have this opportunity to network and to, yeah, it seems kind of obvious.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, anyway, that's interesting. That's interesting. I can just imagine it's people, you'd be surprised how hesitant I hear people are to kind of like a men's ERG. I think on the other hand, there's one more population of people that we have not really talked about that I'm just curious on your take. Because this is the other thing that's popular. Even though I've never heard of anyone actually asking for one, I think this is just kind of like, I don't know why this is even brought up. Well, when people say, well, we don't have a white ERG, what would you say to that? I think I know what you would say, but I'm
Well,
curious what you
no
would
one
say.
has ever brought it up. So that's the first thing. And if someone ever brought it up, I'm going to ask them the same thing I asked of all the ERG leaders. Education. What is going to be your mission, your purpose, your values? What community service are you going to do that aligns with this white ERG? And what networking opportunities? So you have to make sure you fill it all the way out. It's going to go to our EDI team. It's going to go to the chief of HR. And then they approve it, make sure everything is good. Hey, it could be the 11th ERG, but you got to follow the same process as all 10.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that, and I respect that so much because I don't think that people are consistent when it comes to the different communities. I think that's when your own personal bias can easily come in and be like, nah, when it's like, no, you have to keep the same energy with all the communities, in that same way. So that makes sense to me. And also, it wasn't until this conversation as you were talking about the men's ERG that I realized like I've heard people ask about a men's ERG and realistically I see programming out in the broader world. I see Big Brothers Club, like that's a men specific volunteerism effort. Or I see like Black Men in Tech. That's a men specific conference. Like so there are things out there that revolve around men in particular. You don't see it as often with like just the white community in a way that's not, you don't in a way that's like corporate friendly, if you will. So that's part of it. But also no one really asks for that. Like even though you might hear someone every now and then in protest to an ERG might say, well, we don't have a white one. You could really just be like, you're open to start it if you would like. And I don't think anybody would. So
Mhm.
that's just funny. Even as for people to kind of think through, I think even with the future of ERGs, as they keep expanding, that question might come up more with people wanting their own community. But you just have to be prepared to kind of have that conversation on how you're going to keep the same energy, really, because then it becomes problematic if you don't.
Mhm.
Anyway, that's my ramble of the day. But that was really helpful with answering a question that's been on my mind for a
Mhm.
while. Like, is there something wrong? There's nothing wrong with having a white ERG. It's just another community
Mhm.
at the end of the day. And really, with what we're trying to do, especially what a lot of companies anchoring their ERG under diversity, is like that's trying to make community space for everybody. So it's just another community.
Mhm.
I guess my closing question, under the vein of community, is what part would you say that plays into an ERG? That's something else that's been kind of on my mind more so recently. So I'm just curious your take.
On community as it
Yeah.
relates to ERGs. Yeah, definitely tapping in. Again, we are the volunteer state. We love community, and a part of our diversity council is we have a volunteerism community service piece. And so the chair of that, we get paid up to 5 hours a week every pay period to actually volunteer and to
Wow.
build community. And so we are working with various organizations. We can ready to hopefully to bring it back because employees been asking about it. And so we want our employees, to be able to take off to go volunteer because we want them also to be of service. And so that's one way that, our ERGs and our council has provided a place where, again, we work every day, right? And so we also want to make sure that we are giving back. And it's also therapeutic, right? Like we like shopping, you like to work out. That's another avenue as well, because we also want to build those connectivities that the city of Memphis is not just the place you work, but we also care about you. We care about our city as a whole and our environment as well. So that is another avenue. And again, we're always work within our community. So we might use churches for venues. Again, we're always pulling in community partners. So again, I told you earlier, I speak French quite often because I might be the spearhead, the leader of it, but I knew it takes all of us as a community of 10 ERGs and our council to really kind of galvanize to create this culture. So if something happens, like again, we saw a need, Women's Circle saw a need. So the council said, hey, we want to help our students. They're a part of our community. We don't want a young lady missing school because they don't have the proper tools they need. So again, that's a way that we can build community and let them know that we are here. We might not have all the money as some organizations, but what we do have, use your platform wisely to be more impactful.
Yep, that's huge. And what about the other version of community too, when it comes to internally, like connecting people?
Definitely. I'm a huge advocate about internal connectivity. And so for me, the biggest obstacle, I think, especially working in government, is just that COM versus professional. Like sometimes it kind of can collide, right? Because you might want to have an event during a certain time, but you might X out X, Y, and Z, right? So how do we meet the need? So that's something that I still have a dot by because I don't have all the answers. So that's why I'm looking to other professions, like what can we do to make sure that we are building this internal community consistently? Because again, you got employees that's new, people are retiring. Again, you have new leaderships in government with new leaders, so their priorities change. And so you have to, make sure that you align into those positions. So how can we always continue to build community, making sure we're staying focused, still to our core values, and still getting the workout. So that's something I think most people are still challenged. How can we continue to build community? We know inflation is up, so things is higher and people don't want to drive. And, it's so many different things that kind of impede it, but you have to be innovative and you have to be creative. And I think people see the work that we're doing internally. And again, that word of mouth is the best because when they hear about a certain event, they're going to speak up. Oh my God, we have so much fun. You get to meet new people. There's networking opportunities. You can volunteer. That's how we also cultivate that internal community.
And hearing you say that, do you do any virtual events or are they all in person?
We have had we've had webinars. We do a lot on Teams, so we do use both pieces. So
The-
all of our reports can get that information.
When I tell you I have so many notes from this, I cannot wait to rewatch this and recap it in the blog post. One way I like to close all the interviews is just to ask everyone what the ERG movement really being about, taking ERGs to the next level. What's your piece of advice that you would give to ERG leaders or even ERG program managers out there on how to take their ERG program to the next level?
Don't give up. You might hear tons of no's, but you keep searching for that yes. Again, I took the position after COVID, so we lost a lot of momentum. We had lost leaders. So I had to be very strategic. And so I reached out to employees. I think it's also a good way, if you are in the space, there might be some young talent that might not be a manager supervisor. They're looking for opportunities to grow. Put them as an ERG leader because you get to coach them. They get to learn how to run a budget. They get to learn how to plan a program from the start to the beginning, have to work with that ERG to get a consensus. So these are skills that we're going to need in our future leadership teams. So again, you see top talent, send them our way, right? I don't know if you have a diversity council or you maybe think about a council, but building community of all so you can get all these wonderful ideas, and it just gives people opportunity outside their day-to-day. And again, it brings that internal connection. They go out to eat after dinner. They have friendships, right? That might be your best friend you meet on the job, right? You just never know. So definitely make sure that you're cultivating and check the pulse of your ERGs. Just don't have ERGs just to have them. They are not doing what they're supposed to do. I will pause the ERG. I'm not going to have 10 ERGs just to say the City of Memphis has them. I want to make sure that we have effective program and we have leaders that are passionate. Please pick people that's passionate, not just because they're going to put it on their resume, but I love BPN because blah, blah, blah. I'm passionate about disability awareness because if they're passionate about it, it's going to reflect. Because again, this is volunteerism. They don't get paid for this. So you also have to make sure you tread lightly. But ERG leaders, National ERG Day is in November. So every November, I have a huge celebration. I have awards for my ERG leaders who went over beyond. So be strategic. I mean, I send them gift cards. I'm always sending them a powerful quote. So again, if you're fortunate to pay your ERGs, that's great. But if you're like me in government, they have to make lemons, right? Use those lemons and squeeze and squeeze. Be very creative, but also make sure you're being impactful and show your appreciation quite often. And let them know that you appreciate the work, that it doesn't go unnoticed. And again, it may not seem like you're doing anything, but you get that one email or that one text or that hug, like, hey, they're trying to help me and my husband, or hey, I've decided to join another ERG leader. I would love to be a leader. It's just that one person that sends you that information, that gives you that extra boost to continue to work. So hang in there and you got this.
Okay, talk about ending with a bang. So many things. Like I said, I could not be more excited to just recap all the learnings from this episode. Thank you so much, Lynetra C. Ross. Any closing words for the people before we close out?
Listen, you can follow me. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm Lynetra C. Ross. Again, you can kind of see I have pictures of all the things I have discussed that we have done at COM. Reach out to me. I'm more than willing to speak to your teams. Again, I am a resource and I'm just here to serve. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on. Stay tuned, you all, for the next episode. Bye.